violent and ruthless act of nature.
And the Prime Minister has now declared a national state of emergency.
The day of the February 22nd earthquake, everything fundamental to life here in Christchurch changed. It doesn't matter how much or how little people have lost, everyone in the city is affected. The constant aftershocks have people on edge. No one is sure if the worst has happened. It's the psychological impact this quake has had that is so worrying. As they rebuild, people need to acknowledge and figure out how best to support one another in the months to come. Superficially, the Nye family is lucky. Their house is still standing. But like all Cantabrians, their lives have dramatically changed. Plastic surgeon Barnaby had just finished operating when the February 22nd quake struck. His wife Stephanie was at home. Their 4 boys, Elliot, Thomas, Christopher and Edward, were at school. On the surface, this family seems okay, but each has been psychologically affected in their own way.
I was out at Burwood Hospital, just getting into my car to come back into town, when the car just started bouncing around. And after I leapt out of the car and made sure that people were okay and the patients I'd just finished operating on were okay in recovery, my next thought was the kids all over town at different schools. And it took me an hour to get 3 kilometres to get Christopher here from his school. And you know, he was in tears.
I think what I remember from just a few minutes after is Tom and a lot of the people in our school saying, "Are my parents alive? Are they dead? Are they okay?" And you just don't know. The drama theatre at our school has a big sweeping staircase that goes up, and our class of boys was just all on that staircase when the earthquake hit, and just 25 boys fell down the stairs.
It's had a lot bigger effect on you, this one, hasn't it?
Because I was at school this time, not near Mum and Dad, so I had no idea what happened to them, if they were okay, if Elliot and Tom were okay, if Eddie was okay. So I was just worrying about them. I wasn't worrying about me that much.
You wouldn't expect this to happen in real life somewhere, because I wouldn't expect it in Christchurch.
I thought somebody shook the house. But I told Mum that I thought it was a giant shaking the house.
I ran outside to get away from the house because it sounded like it was going to collapse. The air instantly was just filled with screaming of children from the local schools. I ran down to where Edward was. The teacher had kept the children in the classroom because of the lights had fallen out of the ceiling, and I think there was arcing of electricity, and you're looking at 6 and 7-year-olds grabbing each other and trembling with fear and fright. There were mothers running down the road towards me, and one of the mothers said, "Are they all right? Are they all right?" And I looked back and stupidly said, "No, they're not." And she said, "What are you..."
Oh. Fraser, it's okay. Come on.
Fraser, come here, darling, it's
come
okay.
on.
Fraser,
Just a small one.
Fraser, come.
We're all quake experts, and that was about a 3.3. I'm angry that having spent 20 years of my life working very hard to build a good life for my family, that has been taken away. And in saying that, I instantly feel guilty that I feel like that when my family are all well, when my house is largely intact.
The
boys are too scared to sleep upstairs in their bedrooms, so in this space down here we've got 6 people, and the dog generally right on top of us because he's too scared to go anywhere else. All sleeping in a space because nobody wants to be without anybody else. The boys already know that 2 of the dads at their school have died in the quake.
You don't value your stuff in the same way that you did, even if you said it wasn't important before, you really don't value it to the same degree.
Concern about the boys' emotional state is splitting the family.
Have you got a sweatshirt? Uh-huh.
Stephanie's heading to Auckland today, but the hospital needs Barnaby to stay.
What we want to do is to get the kids back to normality as quickly as possible. And I think in the next couple of weeks, with the sort of a degree of disruption to the infrastructure, that it's easier if they're not here, that they're somewhere where there is hot water and sewerage.
I think Christopher must have asked me
10 times.
10 times. Well,
10 times in a day.
10 times a day. Mum, can we leave? Mum, can we get out?
Biggest smile we had was when we told him he was going to Auckland. It's just nice to go somewhere where it's predictable and normal, and you can be a kid.
You can sleep.
And you can sleep.
There's no dogs barking in the night.
That's right.
Shock is a big issue among a lot of people in the city. As they've been able to, they've been taking people who can be moved and moving them out into the province, in some cases to other parts of New Zealand.
We've spent 3 days on the ground and felt dozens of small tremors. Cantabrians have braved hundreds. The anxiety levels are mounting with each shake. When it quakes, no one can predict the level of threat. Everyone is constantly braced and on edge. Clinical psychologist John Dugdale has a practice in the Christchurch CBD.
Well, I was sitting at my desk and just thinking about, I was about due to see some people for the afternoon, and there was a bit of a jiggle, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. Then the drawers of the filing cabinet flew open. We came out on the street and there was dust at each end, and there was people just coming out and standing and just looking and trying to make sense of what had happened. There's about 4 phases that people go through in adjusting to it. The first phase, usually a fairly brief one, and at that stage people either are quite stunned or they become really activated, like a headless chook racing around, trying to take on board what's happened. Then we get into the period of turmoil, and that's where the emotions kick in. And people might find themselves very tearful or very anxious or very angry or a whole range of things. It's a bit of a roller coaster. Our arousal level is up, and we have been quite wired, and so you'll find that people have an enhanced startle response. If there's a bit of a loud noise, they'll jump in a way that they wouldn't have previously. Then people get into the third stage, which is mobilising resources. That stage of mobilising, we actually start to take control and be effective. And that might last a few weeks or something like that. And then the fourth stage is actually rebuilding, and that can take a lifetime. I mean, I think it's fair to say that all of us who are here will be affected for the rest of our lives in some way.
This guy's been shoveling for 4 days, not only at his house, but at his neighbours'. It's part of a deep need to get back to normal.
Everything's changed, like all the facilities aren't there anymore. I just get on with it, just carry on. Just keep busy, and you don't, if you're just sitting around, you might be thinking about things, and if you just carry on working, you seem to cope, or I tend to cope better if I'm busy. yeah, it's going to take a while for things to get back to normal. So I think we're just going to be busy for how long it takes.
Some people might not be able to read their own emotions. How do we look out for others?
The first thing is to activate the social support. One of the things we know is that when there's really stressful times, people talking to people and relating to people helps to reduce the long-term consequences. And again, the people I would worry about are the ones that would withdraw. And the thing I would be encouraging people and families and friends to look for in their loved ones is change. Because if they are behaving or showing different emotions, there's something driving that. I often would see clients who would come to me and say, I shouldn't be here, I've really got nothing to worry about because there's somebody out there that's worse off. And I keep saying to them, look, if you have an accident and you lose 2 legs, and I have an accident and I only lose 1, does that mean I haven't got a problem? You know, sure, there are almost always people worse off than us, but it is still legitimate to deal with the traumas and the difficulties that we have.
Saskia and Stuart Hargraves live in the Sumner area, but without power and water in their own home, they're taking shelter with friends across town.
So we're just coming down Ferry Road, and we're going through a lot of liquefaction.
They're taking us to their neighbourhood on the severely damaged hills southeast of the city.
Mitre 10's not going to be open.
No, Mitre 10's not open, Countdown's not open. Everything's closed. Can we just look back onto this hill here? Can we just photograph up this hill up behind us here?
Yeah,
all along there, those are all houses, they're all just got to go. Our personal friends live in those houses.
There are 3 or 4 homes that you'll see that are being severely munted. And it's a awful word to use, but that's just the...
This one here's got a red sticker.
Yes. Look at the size of the... I mean, even that size of that rock there, God, that comes down and rocks on the side of the road. Probably fitting of just people just completely stunned and numb, I reckon, just looking at people walking along the roads and young families, the families that had opted to stay, just sort of trying to think that they can carry on as normal, but just looking, you see look in their faces and you can just see that it's not going to be normal here for a long time. Hey guys.
You guys all right?
You went right, you?
Yes,
yeah.
To a degree, thank you.
They were told their home was over-engineered, but it's one of the few standing on this hill.
Here we are, guys.
They're pleased it's safe to live in.
We work in Victoria Street within the 4 avenues, and when it struck, I looked out, I saw cars being smashed into one another, people terrified, and people falling over on the footpath, and we just sort of gripped onto each other, and then I ran next door to tell Stu that I was all right.
The first words that came out of people's mouths were, there'll be deaths. There's got to be deaths. People are going to die in this.
And we have got a couple of personal friends that have been killed, and that's always hard.
And then remember that woman pushing those 2 little kiddies in a pram?
Oh yes.
And I stopped and said, "Goodness, you can't be doing this. Can we give you assistance?" And she, well, that was a real fog as far as she was, because she was just glazed. Her eyes were just glazed, and she in bare feet, jeans pulled up to her knees. 2 toddlers, they wouldn't have been any more than 2 or 3 in a double pram, and she was just heading off wherever she had to get to. However far that was, I don't know, but...
There's an aftershock, you go. It's all right, it's only an aftershock.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, we're fairly comfortable coming back here now, but any time that there is a shake, it just sort of takes us right back.
They say they're coping, but Saskia and Stu haven't left one another's side since the big shake. 20 years ago, they lost a child, Saskia's adult son. They know grief, and for Christchurch, the grief is coming in huge waves of realisation.
But I think, that brave face is still being held on to by a lot of people, and I think it's going to take a wee bit of time probably it's a bit like a death, you know, which we have experienced, and it's you know, I don't mean to sound the wrong way, but it's all sort of rosy until the funeral, and then time passes, and all of a sudden the flowers stop arriving, and then it sort of sets in that you know, the loved one wasn't coming back in through the front door, and I think that time hasn't hit yet, and that's still going to be a wee way away for the majority of the city.
I'm sure that in 2 years' time, this area will not have any sign of any earthquake at all. I'm sure of it. I'm sure this place will rebuild itself because the people in it. And it's just the most wonderful place to live. And it's the best kept secret in New Zealand for most of us, or we thought. We thought it was, but obviously it's not going to be so sought after now. Just down here, it's like a ghost town now in Sumner, like been vacated, vacated. The one down below, that one has gone. See the tiled roof and the bricks.
On one level, it's real estate, but on another, these abandoned homes are communities, support structures. It's a reflection of the fear and uncertainty that's part of daily life now.
There's not much left. But then we have this darling little couple up the back here, 80-year-olds that haven't moved. They've been here all the way through.
Those darlings are Jim and Judith, both in their 80s. They're without power and water. Judith's terrified. She wants to flee. Jim's staunch. He wants to stay in his house. So for now, they're putting on a brave face. Their son Ian was terrified for his parents. He was on the first flight down from Auckland to give support.
This morning's the first morning I've woken up not crying. I've been crying every other morning.
How she can recover at times is by ringing her friends, especially one in Auckland.
Yes. Yeah.
Who can
friends are a great help.
Just make Jill's life a lot easier.
We had a bad patch the other morning, and Jim and Ian were both trying to be boss, and they wouldn't speak to each other. And I rang up Margaret and I said, "Oh, it's absolutely terrible here. You know, I'm crying all the time, and Jim's being so bossy, and Ian's trying to put up with us both." And Margaret said, "I'll tell you how to fix that. Go and get them both to stand up and say it's family hug time." And we had family hug time, and it's been all right since. Oh. I was in the telecom shop in Shirley. I've been trying to go on broadband, and I bought this broadband package and left it on the counter because there was this terrible shake. And the girl behind the counter, whose name was Laura, I fell over as I was going out, and she threw herself on top of me and said, "Don't you worry, dear, if the ceiling falls in, it'll get me first."
Yeah, she did, yeah.
Wasn't that wonderful? But I came home to the bridge down at Ferrymead, and that was closed. An elderly gentleman on the bridge said to me, "How far have you got to go, dear?" And I said, "Oh, probably 5 miles. I hope to get there before it's dark." And he said, "You'll get there before it's dark. One of my chaps will take you." Jim was pleased to see me, weren't you, dear?
Yes. I was worried, and I tried to contact you by cell phone, but...
that had all gone.
Yeah. And it was quite a wait.
But you realise, how lovely it is to have a lovely son and a great husband, even although he won't shift.
Yes, well, if it hadn't been for the guys on the bridge, though, she could still be walking home.
About after 3 days, we had... Oh, there's a shake.
Right.
Oh,
that's all right.
Please, God, don't let there be any more shakes tonight.
When I was really young, I went through another earthquake, and I lived in Lower Hutt. Lower Hutt, they had a major one there, which affected me quite badly at the time because the next door neighbour's chimney rolled down the roof and landed on the fence and came in, and some of the rocks landed on the end of my bed.
The beautiful view from their dream home has a different perspective now. Judith is extremely stressed. With age, she says she's much more sensitive. Ian's dropped everything to be here. Now he just wants to get his parents away.
At this stage, I sort of stay as long as it takes. I'm trying to encourage Mum and Dad to go up north to their good friends or come with me if they want to, or Mum's likely to, and I'm trying to kid Dad into at least coming for the day to get him out of the place and fly him back at that night if he won't stay away overnight. But he's a bit stubborn and grumpy at times, so if I was a betting man, I wouldn't be putting my money on getting Dad to go.
It's going.
Just cooking your beans, Jim, that you picked this morning.
Something else I grab is beans.
There's no flight booked back because Mum needs a bit more emotional help and the house needs physical help.
Oh, you cooked a wonderful meal, Mum.
Oh, thank you.
Without lights and a tally, they're all off to bed before it's dark. Down the hill, a doctor and his young family have set up camp. It's no longer safe to live in their apartment. People here are really just beginning to take it all in. Most are still in shock, some grieving, others trying to manage with every hour of every day.
One of the difficulties in our culture, particularly with males, is that us males get a lot of permission to show angry, aggressive feelings, but not much permission to show hurt. And oftentimes, if a guy is feeling really quite distressed about something, what he'll show outwardly will be irritability or anger or intolerance, where underneath he might be feeling quite worried or quite scared or quite hurt, but it's not okay for us males to talk about that.
Everyone has the potential to tip over the edge.
Some people have learned really quite chronic worry patterns, and they evaluate events in extreme. Instead of something being unfortunate, it's terrible. And that language generates more emotional, physiological arousal. Learning to manage that anxiety and keep it down is really quite important.
Christchurch used to be known as the accessible city. Tim Ward couldn't leave his home for the first 7 days after the quake. Broken paths and liquefaction made it impossible for him to get around. He was trapped, without power or water.
Like my electric bed, you know, I was sitting in bed at the time with the power going off. I've been sitting up for the last week. My carer was in the kitchen here, and this had no warning this time. It just really hit, and it was really violent shake. And my carer tried to run down to my room to get to me, but he had no chance. He was bouncing off the walls.
The police say 200 homes have been evacuated in the Red Cliffs and Clifton areas near Sumner. They say the evacuation's a precaution after fishers were found.
Listening to the radio, you couldn't comprehend what's going on. I guess if you're able-bodied and you're out there seeing all the devastation, I guess I'm cut off. I still can't comprehend how bad it is out there, so yeah, I think I've been pretty lucky, really.
Tim had only just come out of a deep depression following the car accident that left him paralysed. Now this. He's drawing on the resilience learned during his painful recovery.
Maybe I've got a bit more patience now being in a chair, like I was, I guess being cut off, but you just had to wait it out, really. Until we got power and water back on, everything seems normal life again.
The family's moved out. They've got a flight to Auckland and are staying with relatives there, which is fantastic for them and a huge relief for me. The most difficult thing is, when are we going to have a normal life again? And I don't know the answer to that question yet. You have to deal with your own emotions continuously. They change. Pretty early on, I was at the stage of just being angry that it had happened again, I'm not angry at anyone, I'm angry that I thought I knew. I thought I could control the situation for my family, and the situation turned out to be different, and I don't like the unexpected.
Saskia and Stu have attended funerals for 2 of their friends. They still can't live in their home. Judith spent 2 weeks away from Christchurch and feels less anxious. The footpaths around Tim's home remain inaccessible. The Nye family is back home. Sleep doesn't come easy.